Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. What a dreadful game to analyze. A draw was the outcome, which is also what I predicted. I predicted a 1-1 result in the previous show. Let's be brutally honest, not the most exciting game, to say the least. And quite frankly, I think we were very, very lucky to even get a point, as Chelsea had plenty of chances to get the win. Before the game, in terms of the lineup, it was quite interesting to see how the Chelsea team would start the game, as they have an sort of interim manager at this stage. Kante returns; he's been injured probably throughout the whole season, but when it comes to a Liverpool fixture, seems to turn up, and he had a great game as well. And it was a 3-5-2 formation. Felix and Havertz were up top. Liverpool, on the other hand, had a lot of wholesale changes to the squad, a completely new back four in the form of Gomez at right back, Tsimikas left back, and then you have Matip and Konate. Midfield was an interesting one. Slight alarm bells in terms of the pairing. He had Fabinho, Henderson, and Curtis Jones, who started his first game. And then you had Jota on the right, which, as you know, I'm not a big fan of. Firmino in the central area, and then you've got Nunes on the left-hand side. So, yeah, it was a big game for Jones, to say the least, as he hasn't started many games. Questionable selection, as some people would say. Why hasn't Carvalho had a chance to play or even make an appearance? He didn't even come off the bench for this game. So what does he have to do to play? But I think that'll be another conversation for another day. But let's get into the match analysis. But before I do, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Why not send me a comment as well? Let me know what you think about the match or my. Let's get into the match. So first half goes without saying. Chelsea had a lot of possession. Felix has a chance through on going in the early opening, I think 10 minutes it was, on a counter attack, which was blocked by Matip. And then moments later, Kovacic, was very, very close in scoring the opening scoreline, but it was blocked by Konate, which was a great clearance from him. And then you've got Nunes as well, who for me was the only attacking outlet throughout the game. He carries the ball from the halfway line and sprints towards goal, but he was blocked by the Chelsea defense. And then Chilwell hits a low cross from open play towards the 6-yard box. Thankfully, it was blocked by Alisson, as Havertz was very close to getting a touch. Reece James actually hit the back of the net with a great strike from outside the box, but it was ruled offside. Very, very close in terms of the offside decision, as Enzo Fernandez was marginally offside. So a good call from the officials there. Havertz has a shot from the left-hand side, but he drags it wide. Joe Gomez surprisingly has Liverpool's first shot on goal. Decent effort, but it was saved by Kepa in the end. And Fabinho from the corner has a shot which goes off the mark and goes wide. That was pretty much a summary of the first half. So overall, a terrible first half for Liverpool, to say the least. It was all Chelsea, and it could have been 2 or 3 goals for Chelsea, who was simply not clinical enough in this game. And I guess that is probably the tale of their season. Into the second half, Kovacic has another glorious chance to make it 1-0, but he hits the shot over the bar. Big, big chance for Chelsea there. I probably would have set the tone if that goal had gone in. Havertz hits the back of the net. Second time for Chelsea as he goes through on goal. Dinks a shot, but it rebounds off Alisson onto his arm, or hand, I should say, before it crosses the goal line. That was ruled out by offside, and another correct decision there. Felix cuts in and has a shot from the left-hand side, which goes wide. Nunes emulates a similar chance on the other end. Solid shot on goal, but straight at the keeper. And then Felix again, another shot towards goal, hits it over the bar. You think Chelsea are playing a different sport, the way they kept on hitting over the bar. If it was rugby, they would have had a good few points on the scoreline. And Chelsea's finishing was just shocking throughout the game. But what's shocking is the number of chances that Liverpool are conceding. And then straight after this Felix shot, we saw Henderson-Alisson clash as Henderson makes an error before the lead up to that chance. Now, I don't mind seeing this sort of stuff from the team. I know some people don't like it, but shows a bit of passion. And, sometimes you have to tell your teammates how it is sometimes. But in this situation, you have to look at Henderson. It's not the first time he's gone toe-to-toe with one of his team members. He did it with Trent Alexander-Arnold, I believe, against Palace not so long ago. So right now, he seems to be the weakest link in the team. He has a lot of moments in games where, for me, well, not even moments in games. I feel like this season he's definitely been below par, as well as other players. But because he's captain, he's a lot more vocal than the ordinary player. And when you're a player who's actually having a decent game or is having an impact on the game, it's difficult to take abuse or criticism from someone who is having a worse game than you. In this case, which was Alisson, he was having a much better game, to say the least. So sometimes the player, in terms of the captain Henderson, needs to look at his own game before he heavily criticizes someone. It's all good shouting instructions here and there, but to go up to a player like that is unacceptable. So yeah, it's not the first time. Something that might be revisited in the summer. A lot of talks amongst fans that maybe we should assign a new captain, as Henderson, for me, will be a bit part player next year. He won't be starting many games. He'll take that Milner role where he comes off the bench to close off games. I definitely see that being his role. I see him more as a backup for a number 6 role rather than a number 8. But we'll have that conversation about the team in due time. But back to the game, Enzo Fernandez, who had a fantastic game to say the least, takes the shot from distance over the bar again. The tale of Chelsea's story for this game. Everything went over the bar, and that concludes the game. So Liverpool were very, very lucky to get a point. Chelsea, on the other hand, will feel frustrated not to get the 3 points, but their finishing really let them down. They had no killer instinct in front of goal. Now, Klopp was very positive with his comments after the game, and I know a lot of fans over social media were confused, as it wasn't really a true reflection of the performance. He was saying that probably one of the best performances this season. Now, we all know the team aren't playing great, to say the least. But as a manager, this is something he has to do. He needs to breathe some confidence into a group of players that are clearly out of form and clearly showing below par performances and a shadow of themselves right now. So it's a psychological approach where he's trying to give them some flowers to say, look, you did really well. On another day, it could have been better. But we know they were awful in this game. But hopefully that gives them some confidence going into the Arsenal game. It's at Anfield, which is more helpful. But do we have the team to trouble Arsenal? At this stage, it's very hard to say. So obviously we'll do a match preview during the week. But before we end the show, we can do a quick player ratings for the Liverpool team. So I try and be as honest as I can, and I will not be too kind with my ratings. Alisson, for me, always has a great performance for Liverpool, which is good. You're saying the goalkeeper should have a great performance, but I feel like when you're a top team, the goalkeeper shouldn't really be your man of the match all the time, or shouldn't be your player of the season. I think of Manchester United, where De Gea has been player of the season for them for like 4 or 5 times out of 6 years, and that for me is not a good thing. I do believe Alisson has been the best player for Liverpool this season. So when you're playing for a top team, the goalkeeper shouldn't have to make too many saves. The difference between a world-class keeper and a good keeper is concentration. So Alisson's very good, where he might have 1 or 2 saves to make during the game, but his concentration and focus of the game, or reading of the game as well, is top tier. So that's what makes him one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But this season, he's actually had to work a lot harder, make a lot of crucial saves to even allow Liverpool to get a point, let alone 3 points on the board. So he's definitely earned his money this season, to say the least. And I'll give him a solid performance there. So he goes in there. Joe Gomez. So if you watch my transfer-related content last week, I believe he should be a right back from next season. I don't think he should be listed or regarded as a centre back. He can play in that position, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he's better on the right hand side. Seems to be a bit more natural to him when he's playing in that position. He'll be a good option to have if we have an injury crisis or we need someone to be rotated in the centre back role. But for me, right back should be his position, long-term position at the club, and from next season onwards. In regards to this game, I thought he was one of the better players. So defensively solid, trying to attack as well. Obviously, his passing is not going to be as adventurous as Trent Alexander-Arnold's, but then again, which right back offers that kind of passing range? So for me, he was decent on the ball. One of his better performances this season. So I'm going to put him in the solid section as well. So he goes alongside Alisson there. Matip was not good in this game, to say it politely. He was run ragged throughout the game, especially against Jao Felix. Gave away a lot of chances, out of position. His future is in question right now. He has 1 year remaining in his contract. Does he have a long-term future at the club, or will we see him play for Liverpool next season? There's certainly question marks right now. I thought we would have kept him for his experience, but if he's not playing to the level that we expect him to play, it might be worth catching on him. But in terms of the game, I don't think he had a great performance. So I'm going to put him in the poor section. Konate wasn't fantastic, to say the least, but did show a good account of himself. That block in the first half against Kovacic was key, as that could have dismantled the whole team. We might have seen a bigger scoreline, which we have seen in previous weeks. So for me, I'll put him in the average category. I think he had a decent game, but I would say Joe Gomez, in terms of defense, was the better player. And Tsimikas. So in my match preview, I said this was the time for Tsimikas to really showcase his talent, really show that, if he produces a good performance, he might deserve a run of games. In this game, he did not show that at all. He was one of the worst players on the pitch. That challenge from Kante, where he just pushed him out the way, that led up to a chance, that sticks to my mind. So yeah, he was out of position. Just it wasn't effective at all. So unfortunately, I'm going to put him in the poor section alongside Matip. Now, Fabinho, for me, how should I say this politely? So another poor game from him, to say the least. Passing range is off, and I just feel like he doesn't have the legs anymore. I've said it before. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I don't see him being at the club for the long term. I do see him being sold in the summer. I think it would work in terms of trying to find a younger prospect to come into the team. So players we've been strongly linked to include Ugarte from Sporting Lisbon, or even Caicedo from Brighton. So those are the profile players that we're looking to replace him with. And yeah, I feel like we need a new specialist in that defensive midfield role, and I think his time is up. So in terms of the game, I don't think he had a great game at all. So I'm going to put him in the poor section. Curtis Jones. So for me, this was a game where I've already said it plenty of times in the past. This season is make or break, but I don't feel like he's done well to have a long-term future at a club. Expect to probably see him go out on loan. I would probably sell him to generate funds in order to reinvest into the squad. So that's my point on him. In terms of his performance, he did okay. He had some neat touches here and there. For me, he holds onto the ball a bit too long than normal. He doesn't make the. I feel like he slows the game down. Doesn't make the game tick. Doesn't really set the tempo, especially when you're playing in the midfield role. That is your role, to set the tempo for the team. I think he slows everything down. takes about 8 touches when he should probably take 1 or 2. But I think he was probably one of the better performers in the midfield position, so I'm going to put him in the average section. Henderson. Yeah. Probably a game to forget. I think he was poor throughout. And I know I said I don't mind seeing players step up to players when they've had a bad game, but in this account, I don't think that was the right thing to do. Henderson had a terrible game, so he shouldn't really be shoving up his own players to say you should do better when he was at fault for that opportunity there when João Felix went through on goal. So I'm actually going to put him in the pants section. I thought he was really bad in this game. In terms of the strikers, or forwards, we should say. Jota playing the right-hand side. I never like to see him in that role. Some people think he does a decent job. I think he's so ineffective in the right-hand side. Cuts in, doesn't do anything. Can't really take on a fullback in that role. For me, he was ineffective throughout. So he goes in the poor section. Firmino, for me, showed some good touches throughout the game. Just a bit unlucky. Just didn't have that killing instinct in front of goal. I think the team seemed a bit disjointed in the front half as well. So I'm going to put him in the average section. Núñez, for me, I would have preferred to have seen him starting up top rather than the left-hand side. But, he gives his all, tries his best, had a couple shots on goal. I think he was the only player that we were looking at to make something happen, which is quite a lot for a player to hold on to, as there's a lot of weight on his shoulders. So I think in terms of the game, I think he was one of the better players. So I'm going to put Núñez in the solid section. I think he had a solid performance. The subs, and I'll be brutally honest, I don't think none of them had an impact on the game. So with that said, I'm just going to put all of them in the average section. So that included, where do we have? James Milner was there. Then you also had Mo Salah come on. Then we also had Robertson and Cody Gakpo as well. So yep. So that's my player ratings there. So let me know what you guys think. And that concludes the show for today. A quick one as always, but not much to talk about on a 0-0 result. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The next show will be taking place tomorrow at 10 p.m. where I'll be doing a match week 29 review. A lot of games to cover. I'll probably pick 5 or 6 games of importance. And then, yeah, that's it for today. So take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great day. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.